happens all the time.
Right, okay, so I'll just press start streaming, and then we should be all good on YouTube. I had a little test run earlier, so yeah. Alright, so I'll just press...
Are we live streaming?
We're live streaming.
I just think it'd be easier...
Fuck it! We're doing it live!
Yeah, I just think it'd be easier than just...
And then it's saved as well.
Yeah, exactly, so...
and it already puts the borders and stuff on as well, you said, so that's pretty good.
Exactly, and we're live.
Yes.
Right, so the European Super League, lads, it has basically been destroying... Well, it could have destroyed football. I mean, I feel like at this point, unless you've been living under a rock, you're going to know what's happened in regards to the European Super League. And it's just... I'm not going to lie, you got the news on Sunday, and then I basically spent all of Monday going, is football over? I think the whole of the footballing world just stopped still in a way that I don't think I've ever seen before. It was absolutely mental.
Yeah, I wasn't paying much attention at work on Monday because I was just thinking about the Super League and what it meant and all the possible permutations of how it was going to end. How can we stop it? What can we do? I want to riot. I want to do something. I want to save football.
It was such an unusual announcement as well, because we've heard about the Super League in the past and it's been a discussion.
Yeah, like the Project Big Picture, that kind of thing.
Project Big Picture, we even like us on this pod, we've talked about the idea of it. And then all of a sudden one night we hear there's talk about it, and then at 9:30 everyone drops this really, I almost want to say confusing message, but it wasn't. It was very clear. It was, but it confused everyone. It was like there was no build up. It was just okay. There's a Super League on now.
Yeah, it was. There was as you said, there was just no build up to it. It was just out of the blue. It was made apparent during, just as the Man United Burnley game was about to happen on Sunday, and the whole nation was treated to a Gary Neville rant, which was pretty on the nose, to be honest, in regards to everything he said. But it just makes you think, how can this happen? It was out of nowhere. There was no build up. There was no. It could be. There was nothing in the pipeline. It was just it was like someone just dropped a grenade into the room of football and went, enjoy.
Yeah, no, it was wild.
Well, I mean, the announcement was quick, but bear in mind, they've been talking for probably about a year before this happened. This hasn't come about overnight. Yes, the announcement came quickly, but this was a long negotiation, which has taken a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the announcement time was weird. I mean, I was going to bed about. I was texting have you seen the news? I'm like, what's going on?
I was just getting ready for bed, and I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, same.
And it wasn't. And everyone was talking about it, and it was all over the news, and obviously we saw Gary Neville as well. And I was just like, oh, okay, that's that's a problem for another day. And then all of a sudden, it was real when you saw the statements. I saw Real Madrid's statement, and then all of the rest of them just started to follow. That's when it really
Well, although honestly, so when it dropped, I was up till gone one, just refreshing Twitter, refreshing every kind of news thing, what? Because as you said, they dropped it super late, and I was like, what is going on here? Which I don't know. I was thinking about that. It almost because when you think of the owners of Liverpool, Arsenal. American owners. It was almost like it was dropped at what would have been peak time for the States. Which is that's just such a weird timing. So I don't know whether that alludes as to just how involved they were. I mean, they were obviously very involved. You got the fucking Glazer family being the chief execs or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it may also try and show how they were trying to slide it in under the radar in the UK as well.
Yeah.
So as you say, peak time for America, which is obviously the audience where they want this to take off, and try and hide it from the people who are not going to like this.
Yeah.
When it drops.
Well, I wouldn't have been so. I think this has been on the cards for a while. I think the clubs have wanted to do it. I wouldn't be surprised if it got to this point because of they finally got a backer in JP Morgan. They finally got a bank to promise them the money.
I mean, I saw an article. I don't know if any of you saw this. John Walters tweeted something. Apparently the idea of a Super League was first banded in 1998.
Yeah.
When they did the initial Champions League reforms. And they used it to strong arm UEFA into building the Champions League. And what's the funny is you look at the teams in that, City aren't anywhere near it. Chelsea aren't anywhere near it.
Yeah.
Half the teams in it were nowhere near it. Because they're new money. And that's they're only in it because they've got new money. So Yeah, it's an odd one, that. I mean, how Tottenham and Arsenal got an invite, I'll never know.
I mean, as you said, it's the money thing, really. So obviously, again, just to sort of put it into context, into the probably the 1 or 2 football fans in the world still that don't understand how it would work. It would obviously just be what was it? The founding 12 clubs. There was going to be founding 12 clubs.
Well, founding 15.
Yeah,
15
they were going to add it up to
eventually,
15. And the 15 clubs, obviously, Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, United, Arsenal, Spurs from England, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid from Spain, Juventus, AC Milan, and Inter Milan from Italy, and then there was going to be another 3 teams added at some point down the line. They were going to go.
I mean, we know who they would be.
Yeah. Like they were trying to strong arm.
Bayern, Dortmund, and PSG were the other 3 they clearly wanted as part of this.
Yeah, and
let's be realistic.
Yeah,
and obviously it was going to be with the intent of creating that new Super League, which obviously. It breaks the L9 rule in the Premier League anyway, but it completely, had this gone ahead, it would have just completely ripped apart the footballing pyramid, not only within England, but also within the domestic leagues of Spain and Italy as well. So you're looking at almost like a revolution of football in terms of, and not for the better. Obviously, the thing with the Super League being, that these teams could never be relegated from it, and that they were going to get an extra 300 million pounds per year, and as a result, then you'd think, well, they're not going to take their own domestic league seriously, because why would they? They're in this league, and it just
the money they were talking about for the league wasn't crazy. So it was
300 million.
Yeah, 300, a guaranteed 300 million. That's not to win it. That's just to participate.
Yeah,
and when you compare that to, I think it's like 120 to 130.
120 if you win the
Champions League. It's round about the same number if you win the Premier League. Like it's astronomical money, and if they were allowed to stay within the domestic leagues, you couldn't argue it. You could guarantee that they'd have a massive financial advantage. And I mean, they already have a financial advantage. These clubs. These aren't poor clubs.
No,
unless you're Madrid and Barcelona, in which case you are poor.
Yeah,
because you've got stupid amounts of debt.
I think that you're kind of edging into as to why this league was pushed, or at least it was attempted to be pushed through in the first place, because you've got obviously the director of the league was supposed to be the the director of Real Madrid, Perez. And as you said, Real Madrid and Barcelona, they're currently in crippling debt right now. And funnily enough, at the time of recording this, there's still only 3 teams left in it that haven't backed out yet, which is Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Juventus. Which, when everyone else has folded, that's kind of crazy. But it kind of shows you how desperate they are to.
They need that money.
Yeah, they do.
They need that money.
But they're not going to get it now. I mean,
no.
Now, like, you've lost half of the appeal of it.
You could just invite.
What are you going to do?
You could just a ragtag gang of. So West Ham will be in it. You can get Stoke. Just whack them in there.
Stoke.
Yeah. Just bring anyone along.
Or just play 10 El Clasicos this season.
Yeah,
that'll be it. People like that.
It's it was insanity, and it's something I've never ever seen. But it was always money motivated, and I kind of I was discussing it with a friend, and I can kind of get it from a pure business perspective. It makes 100%. A lot of sense. There is no business in the world, at least that I know of, that you're guaranteed £300 million worth of income every year. For everyone else, you've got to go sell some shit to do that. It's just craziness.
No, I mean, let's be real, right? If you're, I mean, it's been pretty established beforehand, before the invention of the European Super League, that like Stan Kroenke at Arsenal, the Glazers, they don't really give a toss about the clubs they own. It's purely money. So, and obviously they're kind of, especially with the way that say like the NFL is structured and everything like that, this idea that if you perform badly you could potentially be relegated, it's just not an American thing, and there's an element of it that makes your potential income at a risk of losing more than you make in the case of I mean, I don't think many of us realistically thought that Arsenal would be relegated this year, but in November, December they had the form of a relegation candidate. Their fans were worried, and people, and had that form continued all the way up until say like Now you'd be sitting there going like, bloody hell, they really could go down, and just the fact that you can have a conversation like that, it basically flies in the face of you know, like the NFL, even the MLS league over there, the NBA, that you just have your teams, and that's that.
I mean, the other thing is though, what was I going to say? Like, you talk about Arsenal being relegated. It's not even as much as that. It's like being in or out of the Champions League.
Well,
that's a shift of income which you can't guarantee, and that's much more realistic for those kind of big
as things stand. Unless because I still think they're in the Europa League, aren't they?
Arsenal. Arsenal.
So if Arsenal have to win the Europa League
to get into
because I think they're out the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And it's looking up. They could still finish in a place, but it's looking unlikely. Let's be honest.
They realistically won't. They're not going to finish ahead of all of the teams above them. They're not going to get changed.
I can't. Yeah, no, I can't see it either. So realistically, the only way for them to get guaranteed European football, that being the Europa, it'd be the Champions League.
Yeah, they have to win the Europa League to get Champions League.
Yeah, they have to get any form of European football. They have to go and win a trophy where there are better teams left in it.
Yeah, I mean, so we've got Villarreal in the semis, and I think we've got a good chance of getting through that.
Yeah, it's just Man United, really, isn't it? That's the big.
Yeah, and that'll be the final, and in a one-off game, I mean, Arsenal could beat Man United.
Yeah, exactly. They've already beaten them this season, so it's a bit of a funny one. In that kind of sense, but as I said, these American owners, there's no element of risk of loss of income, and obviously, it's why for years you kind of felt that they did, like Arsenal as a football club, did rest on their laurels with Arsene Wenger, even though it was getting to the point where he probably wasn't the right man to take the club forward any further. But the owners would have just seen it as, you know, they had 20 consecutive years in the Champions League. They must have seen that and gone, well, that's fine. That's our target. We don't care. Yeah. But then when that's gone, you've then got no guarantee of that income anywhere. And at the end of the day, these owners, they're not that enthusiastic. Well, I say not that enthusiastic. They don't want to put their own money into the club. They want, you know, whatever investment they do have, especially Arsenal. It's the money that the club has generated. So,
well, I mean, I think you see that with Liverpool as well, though, this season. Yeah. I mean, they need a centre-back, clearly needed a centre-back all year, and the owners haven't put anywhere near the income for a club that last season won the league title. It's ridiculous. Spent 20 million on Thiago and 40 million on Jota. But in January, they needed a centre-half, and they got £2 million guy from Preston and a guy on loan from Schalke, at the bottom of the Bundesliga. Yeah. I mean, that's hardly the ambition you're kind of looking for from the ownership. So as you say, it's not a case of that they just don't want to put their money in. And look, I don't know if you saw, like, United's stock price surged 5%.
Yeah, it did. So
the motives are clear. They're very obvious.
And this isn't the end of this.
No, 100%.
It's the end. They will, as long as they don't have checks and balances in our institutions, because this is what they are. They're massive institutions. As long as we don't have checks and balances in it, these people will keep trying to make money in any way they can. Aside from the means that they already have.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. They're going to go to UEFA and try and strong arm UEFA now. Is what they'll do.
If you look at the new, if we talk about where we're going from here, if you look at the new format of the Champions League, you can see that effect. They're now granting places for clubs that have historical success based on UEFA's coefficient. So a club like Barcelona. Okay, it's unlikely that they're not going to qualify in the Champions League next season. But if they don't, say they go around for a really terrible spell, it doesn't work out, you know, they're still rebuilding their academy, they could still get into that Champions League format based on just their historic success.
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
No, that's exactly it. That's anti-competitive. That's anti-sport. That's not the way, especially when you think as well the history in which football has been built, especially over here. It's this idea, it's unlikely, but it's little things can happen. It's amazing how just little tweaks or how just that little element of competitive just makes the excitement surge. You only have to look, you know, at the minute we were in fourth until Chelsea drew against Brighton. We're in fifth on goal difference, which last year we were fighting relegation, and this kind of league, Super League that they were trying to propose is just the complete opposite of that nature.
Well, Well, I mean, it's like you think of Leicester as well. Like that's the story, isn't it? Like Leicester winning the league title, they were fighting relegation. They go on and win the league title. And I think what's brilliant is clubs have a cash advantage. Arsenal, Tottenham, Big Six have always had a cash advantage, but the pitch is 11v11 every time. And whatever happens, whatever results you get, you can outmaneuver in the transfer market. You can scout well. You can do all kinds of things. Invest in your academy. You can find ways to level money and fight and dream and push and push the envelope, and you can do something incredible because at the end of the day it's a competition.
And
it's sport. Well, sport at its essence is a competition.
But at the essence of that competition, what makes it so much money is that it's entertainment. There's stakes on the line here, both stakes from big teams and stakes from little teams, and that is what gives it. That's what makes it exciting. If football wasn't exciting, no one would fucking watch it.
Well, I mean, this is what my issue with the Super League was, because once you kind of decided who got through to a qualification round, there'd be a load of dead fixtures because the teams at the bottom aren't getting relegated. There's just nothing. There's a load of games that just don't matter. Like, what's great about the Premier League? It's got a title race. You've then got a race for Europe. And then a relegation battle, and then there might be 2 or 3 games in the middle that don't.
Exactly. And
but almost every week, there's stakes in everything.
And to be honest with you as well, how often are all 3 of those things sorted before the final day of the season? More often than not, you'll get down to the last day of the season, and there will still be at least the relegation to determine, or the top 4 to determine, or there's always at least one, if not at certain points, all 3 that have to be decided at the very end. And you're right. If in this kind of league sense where, you can't get relegated or whatever, once it looks clear that someone's going to win the whole thing, then the rest of the fixtures, they're almost a waste of time. You've just got to play them out because you've got to play them, but they don't mean anything at that point.
Yeah. It just tears up the whole meritocracy that I think we've tried so hard to defend in football. And it's an amazing structure. And it'd have been terrible if it was going.
And I mean, the pyramid of English football is the pillar of the whole thing, but the money filters downwards, and this was the big issue for me, was literally taking money from the English game and pulling it somewhere else, taking it away from grassroots football, because let's be honest, that comes from Premier League income. Therefore, that's gone. The amount of League 1 and League 2 teams that rely on income from the top of the tree to help them just survive, not just like thrive. They need it just to get through to next week, kind of thing. And then you talk about these big six going, COVID's a problem. We've lost a lot of money. We're going to go and fuck.
I argue that they haven't lost a lot of money because they've been really hit by COVID. Of course, they've been hit by COVID. I would argue, but they still played football. They still were on television, unlike a lot of these other sides. I would argue it is the situation these clubs have landed themselves in. Clubs like Real Madrid, clubs like a lot of Premier League clubs, in massive debt. They've landed themselves in a situation by being unsustainable and spending outside of their means, by dropping hundreds of millions, by borrowing hundreds of millions to try and be like, I'm just going to pay off. At some point, someone needs to step in and say, you need to be a sustainable business.
I mean, this is my issue with Barcelona and Real Madrid, talking about financial sustainability as a thing. Real Madrid and Barcelona never don't qualify for the Champions League. That to them is all but guaranteed income. So what you've done is just gone, this is our ceiling of money because we get basically all the La Liga money.
Pretty much they get 66% between the two of them, which is a joke.
Exactly. So you get basically all the La Liga money and you guaranteed Champions League and almost certainly make the latter stages of that. So what more guaranteed income are you trying to get? You've just been badly managed. That's all you have.
They've just been run like a poor financial institution. And I'm sorry, businesses that aren't successful go out of business. Unfortunately, it'd be very sad to see a club like Real Madrid go. But at some point, the ownership has to take that responsibility. You're 300 million euros in debt. That doesn't happen overnight.
Barcelona's like 1.2 billion.
Yeah, Barcelona
is really bad. It's madness.
But then you see like Erling Braut Haaland going for tour. It's like you can afford Erling Braut Haaland.
My favorite quote was today when is it Luis, the chairman of Real Madrid?
Perez,
sorry. He came out and he was like, "There's no Erling Haaland and there's no Kylian Mbappe to Real Madrid if we don't get the Super League."
Yeah.
I was just like, "Good, you can't afford him. Stop spending money. Like, just
Not
stop."
spending money you don't have.
Yeah, it's like, we're not going to get it if we don't get this league. It's like, okay, fine. Like, if they don't move, they don't move. Like, why should they go to some club that can't fucking afford them? It's as simple as that.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. And it's just the way of keeping the monopoly, isn't it? Really, because you look at, say, the business element, and I think, you know, we can all be quite critical of, say, the Premier League and the way it's done, especially, you know, even Sky Sports, who obviously came out fighting this tooth and nail. And I think individually all of the pundits were true and earnest in what they were saying, but there's kind of an irony of them saying it on Sky Sports, in the sense that it's like, well, hang on a sec, mate. Like 4 or 5 months ago, you wanted to charge people 15 quid to watch a game that they couldn't go to see live.
Well, I do think. Oh, go on.
So no, you go.
No, I did think it was good that Sky came out and made a statement, though, because it's a massive show of face. If they've said we're not interested in being part of this, that's no guaranteed TV money, and that's a massive part of it.
But I mean, I do think if this started, there's no way one of them wouldn't have had a go.
Yeah.
No.
As much as they try and say, look, we don't want to make all the right noises, because I mean, look, Sky are doing it for their own benefit as well. They've got a Premier League contract for another 3 seasons, or whatever it is, for a shit ton of money, which they probably wouldn't have paid if the big 6 teams aren't in it. So let's not pretend they're doing this for the good of the game or because they care about the game.
No,
Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher probably are. Sky Sports were not.
No. But my point was more. I think it definitely had a contribution.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's helpful.
It's because Sky gets one of the biggest TV providers in the UK.
But to be honest with you as well,
saying we don't want to part of it.
Well, not just that though, but you've got to think in, say, 2021, Sky has never been more irrelevant as a concept. Like, I feel like if you've not got the sports channels for Sky, what have you got it for in this day and age? Because Sky Cinema, all their movies and all their you can get that on Netflix, Disney Plus, Prime, or whatever, you know, streaming service that you want for a smidgen of the price that it costs to have, you know, Sky, depending on whether you get the broadband or whatever. You know, if you get the sport, it's the best part of 100 quid a month. Sky.
Yeah.
And as I said, in this day and age, it's never been more relevant. And I think, to be honest with you, it shows, because they don't have Champions League anymore. They were priced out of that by BT Sport. All they have really in terms of their big earner is Sky Sports, the Premier League, and, you know, like maybe some golf and F1 and stuff like that. Yeah, F1 stuff like that.
And the Scottish Premier League. They get 4 Old Firms a season, which might bring some in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, but that's it. So again,
and they do have the lower league games as well.
Yeah. But in terms of like in terms of their biggest sellers, though, it is the Premier League and it is F1. And as I said, in terms of like their other services like Sky Cinema and all that, irrelevant in this day and age. They are irrelevant because you might as well just.
Well, if they're not irrelevant now, they're going that way. Because
they're on the way out.
It's an expectation. Yeah. It's imagine having to catch a film on at a certain time.
Yeah,
I fucking can't think. I don't know what I'm going to do. I just sit down and watch TV. I don't have to think about it.
Yeah, like in.
I want it now. I don't want it 3 hours from now.
The only thing I deliberately catch is Match of the Day. That's because I like it.
Yeah. But even then, though, you can still find that on iPlayer and stuff. You don't have to watch it then and there.
Exactly.
And as I said, same with Sky. They've got, you know, when they get all these movies and stuff on. I'm like, yeah, but mate, I can just stream that in 2021. The vast majority of people now they've got it at their fingertips. They don't, as you said, they don't have to wait to, Sky Cinema is showing Star Wars at 8 o'clock tonight. Let's sit down and watch that. No, I can just go on Disney Plus and bonk it. It's there immediately.
Yeah, I mean, feel like we're veering a little bit away from the topic.
A little bit, but it adds to the whole conversation of Sky Sports and their, you know, because they would not be. The thing that really got me, and I think this was where we can edge into it a little bit later. I don't know if you guys saw, but Amazon came out and made a statement, and they said that they would have nothing to do with this competition, which for me. Yeah. Going into the creation of this competition, I would have said that Amazon would have been the shoo-in to stream said European Super League.
I feel like Netflix as well might have had a go at it.
Yeah,
I know they've not really done a lot of live sports, but they would certainly have had a go.
Yeah, it was
it's prime for streaming.
It's one thing having the fans upset and what I'll just call like the footballing population upset. You know, like Gary Neville's and all these people.
Yeah,
that's one thing. Having major businesses, whether down the line they might check on it. It's about making money at the end of the day. But having these big big corporations who make millions of pounds off of selling rights to football, all coming out and saying this is wrong, we don't want any part of it. But must have played up, because then you've got companies saying, "Oh, like you're right, lads, we don't want to."
But for me, it's still a grassroots movement, because would Sky have done it? The backlash wasn't as vehemently against as it was.
I agree.
They saw that this was turning, and it was turning nasty quickly.
And they wanted.
I've never seen football as united on a single topic in my life.
Yeah.
Like, fan of every club, like proper fans, let's be honest, of every club were out in force. They were ready with pitchforks. Like, if it came to that, they would have marched on stadiums. They'd have done all sorts.
They did. Do you know what? Just on that, I felt at first I was kind of like offended by it. Like I was offended. I was like, oh, like Liverpool think they're better than I saw this shit. But then I kind of sat down. I actually thought, I would feel really sad if I was a Tottenham fan right now, or if I was a Liverpool fan.
I mean, I think Tottenham fans feel sad in general, Matt, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they're pretty depressed all the time. But yeah, I'd have felt like my club was walking away from me.
Yeah, 100%. I said there's not much that would make me like turn against Ipswich, but if they had said we're part of this, I'd have had to seriously consider. Like, obviously now they pulled out, it's kind of okay. But if they got through with this and they'd ripped the heart of the game away, I don't think I could support them anymore. I really don't. And I know people like saying, like, "Oh, you're just being critical. If it come in, you'd have watched it." I'm like, no, I wouldn't. I really wouldn't, and I couldn't. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I would feel I feel dirty almost.
Yeah. I don't get me wrong. We all enjoy Champions League ties. We all enjoy watching Man United play Real Madrid and whoever else. But I don't want to watch that at the expense of the rest of the football league. Football is, no. Like, that's parasitic.
But I mean, you talk about like loving the games like United, Real Madrid. What makes them special is because they're not all the time.
And they mean something.
Well. Don't happen every season. You don't always get those clashes of titans. Like Liverpool played Real Madrid recently. It's the first time they played in 4 years. So it's a huge game. It's a barometer of you against the best in Europe, which is what the Champions League is supposed to be about and what it should be about.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree, boys. So where do we go from here?
Well, I mean, one thing I want to get on to is what do we do about the Big Six now? They've got to face some sort of action. Sure.
Yeah, I agree. I would say, that maybe we sort of like delve into like the kind of like the unraveling of, how it all came about, because, like the Monday. Let's say the Monday. We're going through the Monday. Obviously, Mourinho gets sacked, and honestly, mate, it was honestly. I was honestly sat there.
Mate, I'd have hated to have been the Spurs Twitter admin that day. We're in the Super League. Mourinho gets sacked. He's just there in cold sweats. Like, oh my god, what am I doing?
Well, and this is the thing. Like, Mourinho got sacked, and obviously there wasn't like people weren't really sure why at the time. And you saw some statements, and I was convinced. Up until some information that I found out yesterday, I was convinced in some way, not that Mourinho had, martyred himself or anything, but I was convinced that it was at least involved in the European Super League. I was thinking, well, maybe Daniel Levy has thought that, he's got the 300 million quid, so Mourinho's payoff is like a drop in the bucket. So I was like, maybe that's why he's got rid of him now, because I was thinking, they've got a cup final in a week. And
that's what was bizarre. There had to be some other influence. This wasn't just sack him on Monday. That's madness.
And let's be real, for the last 6 weeks or so now, I feel like the majority of Spurs fans have given up on Champions League football. Though they're definitely not out of it mathematically, but a lot of them are based on their performances were understandably really disheartened. But if history has told us one thing, if there's one guy that's going to upset the Man City apple cart in that final, it's Jose Mourinho.
Well, I mean, I was talking to Matt about this. In terms of a manager to win a one-off game tactically against better opposition, There's no better.
There is
to win a one-off game of football. Forget league campaign. Forget like one game to get it tactically spot on against a much better team.
So the rumor, this is the rumor, is that he refused because remember, none of the players knew. None of the players, as far as we know, none of the managerial staff were told.
No.
So
this is a board level.
The rumor is that in the morning, Jose Mourinho came in and refused to do a training session because he was outraged.
That was the rumor, and then yesterday I heard a leaked phone call from Jamie Redknapp of all people, and it's really interesting. I don't know who he was talking to on the phone, but he basically said if Spurs there was a contract in clause in Mourinho's contract that said if Spurs were to sack Mourinho while he was in the top 4, they would have to pay him out £30 million. If he was in 5th or 6th, they would have to pay him out something like 15 million quid around that mark. And if he was in 7th or lower, they would pay him out at £4 million. So Daniel Levy has thought to himself, I might, we probably want to get rid of him at the end of the season anyway. We're definitely 7th now. If we beat Southampton tomorrow, which let's be real, there was a very good, Southampton.
And they did.
Yeah, and they did. That would then shoot them back up into 5th again. So he's thought to himself, you know what? I'll just get it done now while they're in 7th. Pay him off for 4 million quid rather than 15 or 30. And that's that. We move on because I know new manager boost is a bit of a thing every now and again, but you can't really be sitting there saying that, Ryan Mason is going to have more of an impact in the last 6 games or 7 games than what Mourinho is going to have.
That's what I was going to say. Like, they put Ryan Mason in interim charge. Yeah. That's not a new manager base. That's promoting somebody within. That's an assistant manager taking the job.
Yeah,
I feel like they've gone out and got like Nagelsmann to come in immediately for these final.
That's what I mean.
Games.
Yeah. I mean, good luck to Ryan Mason though, because he's obviously had all that.
Well, he's the youngest British Premier League manager in history now. He's only 29 because of obviously the injury and it's crazy.
So I quite like to see him do well just in that regard, but there you go.
I mean, you want to see young British managers do well, really, don't you? But just when Mourinho got sacked, I felt like the world was collapsing. It did. Honestly, I was sat there with my head on my hands, like this is happening. I felt like I've watched the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones all over it, like the football equivalent of that. I was like, what is going on? I couldn't believe it, and. Yeah, you get there. You get to the end of the Monday, and obviously there's all this uproar, and understandably so. Everything's flying off on social media, and I think you had the Liverpool Leeds game, and at that point I was sat there thinking, is this score even going to be relevant now? Because I was like, if Liverpool, because they wanted this Super League to start in August of this year, so I'm thinking, well, like Leeds are mid-table. And if Liverpool are going to go do the Super League, they don't give a fuck about where they finish in the top 4 now.
No, God no.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was so me and Matt, we sat down and watched like Monday Night Football we turned it on at 7. We're like, we want to watch it.
I've never watched the start.
We want to watch every part of content that we can get today, and we just like Leeds United tonight, not just playing for Leeds United. They're playing for football.
Oh, the football.
We are all Leeds tonight, and I know you have celebrated the goal as hard all season as when Leeds knocked in an 86-minute equaliser. I was delighted. Like we were lads. Leeds have saved football is what's happened here.
Fuck off to your Super League.
Can't even beat Leeds United.
It was, and I think the statements from the managers. Well, I mean, in all honesty, Klopp got thrown under a bus. So did that entire playing squad.
Every manager.
Pep, they all got thrown under a bus because there's no further statement from the board. It was just
the thing.
So Klopp just had to go out there and fair play to Milner as well. He had to give the view on a difficult topic that ultimately it's their employer.
Talk about being caught between a rock and a hard place. I don't think anything in football has ever really, been like that much of a conflict of interest type of situation there. Because, as you said, Milner obviously didn't approve. You know that Klopp has spoken out against this kind of thing previously. But once your employer has signed up to that, it's kind of like, if you speak out against it, you're almost then putting your foot in your own mouth. And though you might hate it, like how, do you hate it to the point of where you're willing to potentially sacrifice your own livelihood to a certain extent, regardless of how wealthy you are?
Well, I mean, and you've got to look at it as well. I mean, if the Super League had gone ahead, they'd probably all get another $100,000 a week. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like, there's a good opportunity.
Yeah, agents are going to just demand that through the system. Yeah.
But yeah, no, and as you say, fair play to the player. And I think that was what made people start getting twitchy when they heard about that captain's meeting. All 20 Premier League captains sitting down, led by Jordan Henderson. That's, I think, when people start to get very, very.
I'd love to have been a fly on that wall. That must have been the most bizarre meeting of a bunch of blokes ever.
Yeah, you do wonder, like Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang just sitting there, like, what's he offering to this discussion? I cannot imagine him leading anything here in terms of that. But because football had to resolve this from within.
Yeah,
nothing external was going to solve this. It was going to be the players. It was going to be the managers. The big commodities that were going to drive this thing through are the only things that could stop it happening.
Yeah.
And I think they started getting very nervous when they saw that.
Yeah, well, and then
go on, mate.
I was going to say, and then obviously, it was that pile of that. Obviously, the shirts, as we've said from Annette, that was a great touch. The leaving the shirts in the changing room from Leeds, that is A-class shithousery. Go on, George.
I mean, like, because on the second day, it all started to unravel, and as I said, I think it did really because I'm kind of with Simon in the sense that for me, like, because fans were gonna scream and kick and shout and make as much noise as possible, and I feel like only maybe the most either deluded or out of touch owners might not have seen this coming, but I kind of feel like they or at the very least, say the PR team would have definitely seen this reaction coming, because Man United and Man City didn't even post about the statement on their Twitter. Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs and Liverpool did, but all they put... how like normally if you get a club announced to do sponsorship, they'll go, oh, we're delighted to announce that we've signed an agreement with Dulux, because, who's going to be our sponsor for the next 3 years. But with this, so you would think that this kind of thing, which is pretty, was going to be monumental in football, if you've committed to that, then surely you've got to be singing its praises. You've got to be, like, oh, this is amazing,
It's so exciting.
But they must have all known. They would have all known how badly it was going to be received, because they've all just gone, club statement, here you are. Like, no excitement, no joy, no, oh, isn't this going to be great? It was just, here you go. Have
and the fact that no owners were willing to put their face on it, or any words behind it, it was just like, here's the official press statement of the European Super League, and that's all you're getting. You're not getting comment from John W. Henry. You're not getting comment from Joel Glazer. You're not getting comment from Daniel Levy.
Yeah,
because they know what was going to happen.
There was,
and they've got plausible deniability as well now, because they don't put their name on it. And what John Glazer did, and that's why he was pretty stupid. But it's.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he was like the chief exec, wasn't he? It was like
the co-chairman.
Co-chairman. Yeah, Perez was on top, and he was like right below.
With the Juventus chairman, the other co-chairman.
Yeah. This was Real Madrid and Manchester United and Juventus's baby.
Well, I mean,
they started it. They were the ones. I mean, United have been talking about it for ages. They were the ones that really started going.
I think it's the American owners really drove this.
Yeah.
Because you heard a lot, and I know City were the first to pull out. City were also the last to jump on this train. That I think they didn't really want to be involved. I know eventually they did, and they still deserve to be punished for that. But they didn't. They don't need the money. That's not like so. They're only doing it because they're afraid they're going to be left behind by these other teams who are getting a lot more income than them, and they're not being part of a competition, which realistically on past few seasons they should be in. It's like one of those things. If everyone else is going and you're not, yes, you can get a reputational boost, but
it is because if say this all went ahead and 2-3 years, because the Champions League wouldn't be what the Champions League was, and after a few years, everyone would have forgotten it. They'd have just gotten back to the way. A lot of City fans would have been saying, well, hold on, why aren't we in the premier European competition? Why aren't we playing against these giant clubs? So I support your argument. I completely get from their perspective. It's like, we don't want to be left behind in Europe's biggest competition, which is what it would have been. It would have ultimately, whether you like it or not, that's what it would have been. It's the biggest clubs in Europe.
Yeah, it's a bit of, because I mean, for me, they certainly had an opportunity to kind of go, because you are right. It's the fear of being left behind, which obviously drove them to make this decision. I think Chelsea was the same. I heard rumours that Chelsea literally signed up to it the day before. So I'm thinking what the planning involved in that, and as this began to unravel. But yeah, like Man City, had they gone, no, you know what, this is ruining what football is. Like if you want to go off and do that, if they had integrity, and I feel like a lot of people would have respected them, and of course, we haven't mentioned so far that that realistically, if almost every other Premier League club had been invited to this party, they would have they'd have put their name on it. Yeah. But for me, as I said earlier, the moment where I felt like the wheels somewhat began to fall off was when Amazon came out and said categorically that they would not be streaming any of this competition. They did not believe in what it stood for. And then it made me think, and I kind of thought, well, hang on, like how could you announce this competition that you would want to start in August and not already have the streaming rights arranged somewhere, whether you make your own service or whether you do go
on the back of a napkin.
This is what made Perez's statements even bloody weirder, because he's like, we signed all the contracts, we signed all this and this. And it's like, no evidence you signed anything.
I'm like, what are you going to be showing this on? You're just going to be live streaming this on Twitch for nothing? Like, what are you doing?
YouTube, mate, YouTube.
Yeah. It was the Juventus chairman that I think came out, and it was just like, we're not backing down from this. It's all signed. We're not backing down. So I thought, oh. Well, to be fair, they haven't backed down.
Those
I'm looking forward to them playing.
They're just sat in the room, the three of them going, it's fine. Someone else will turn up soon. We'll be fine. It's all good.
I mean, well, yeah, we've got to give a quick mention to like Bayern Munich in this sense, because for flat out rejecting it, that's the positive aspect of 51% being owned by fans. Obviously, PSG didn't agree to join either, but that's only because their owners have shares in UEFA. So,
At the end of the day, everyone's going to try and look after themselves, because that's business, that's capitalism at the end of the day. I do find it really interesting that how quickly this has fallen apart, and they all left the European Club Association.
Chelsea certainly did.
I don't know about all of them. No, I heard they all did. I heard every single one of them left it on the Monday.
Look, let's be honest. UEFA aren't going to not let them back in.
No.
They need their income as much.
But I am surprised how quickly it dissolved as it came around.
Yeah.
Well, look, it was always going to be a house of cards, because if one English team pulled out, two will because I had this thing where the Premier League, to get stuff through voting, need 75%. So you've got 14.
Yeah.
So if you've got one more, suddenly all sanctions are on the table, and you could get anything thrown at you.
Yeah.
So one goes, and then everyone else gets nervous. So then another one goes, and then it falls apart because all 6 English teams pulled out. And that's essentially what happened. The 6 English teams pulled out. Then everyone else went, well, they're not in it, so what's the point? This is not going to happen now.
You're absolutely right. It was because we were at the pub. We were at a beer garden. And it on Tuesday, it was just like a series of... So it was like, Chelsea are apparently preparing paperwork to withdraw formally from this league. That was the first thing. Petr Cech was outside, fucking protesting. That was good. And then it was, I think the next thing was that
City pulled out.
Yeah.
All the Liverpool players posted that red square, well, apart from Mo Salah. I didn't notice that.
Then Ed Woodward was forced to resign.
Yeah, Ed Woodward was sacked. And then... Well, it's by this point we were celebrating.
Yeah, it was fantastic because there were a group of lads on the table next to us, and they could cheering everything that happened.
You heard the story.
We were just what's happened? Let's have a look. What's the next thing to come out of this?
Yeah, and then I think Arsenal must have been one of the last.
I think Arsenal were the last to pull out.
Not surprised. They were like, please, can we come? I really want to. Yes. Oh god, but no, it was wild. So
and that was it. It died.
Yeah, it's just
crazy.
And then today,
have you seen that? Have you seen that Twitter account of things that lasted longer than the European Super League?
I've seen that.
It's fantastic. Honestly, I've been looking at it. Is that great? Like the Ever Given thing in the Suez Canal, like some test matches. Like it's brilliant. Like I love it.
No,
there's a reason for it.
Honestly, but it's funny though because, like, it's still like Perez is still insisting it's not dead. But even then, and again, I mentioned being out of touch or or flat out delusional earlier. You had Perez on like Monday, Tuesday saying he was like, 16 to 24-year-olds aren't interested in football, and I was like, what are you smoking?
My favourite quote. Did you see his other one, which was those people of those age bracket don't last 90 minutes, like they always leave before the end. How far attached from reality are you? No. It is ridiculous.
And I'm like, no, what you actually mean is that the majority of 16 to 24-year-olds won't be able to afford your product. That's what you act like going forward. That's what you're going to mean because
in like Real Madrid, it's like €200 a match.
Yeah.
I think people would have had a much greater appreciation for them if they were just like, we're just doing this for money. Like, don't bullshit me about, we're doing this to save football. We're doing it for the greater good of the game. We're doing it
each other every week, but Arsenal here.
Yeah. Like that makes fucking zero sense. Insanity. It is crazy. But
I can't wait for the Netflix documentary about 3 years from now. Like European Super League, 8 hours that shook football to its core or something.
Yeah, it will be good.
That'd be a great watch.
It definitely will. But it's just, I've never seen anything like it in football, and I just feel like they must have. It was just so poorly put together in the end because.
Well, and I think this was the issue, because they've overplayed their hand.
Yeah,
they can't do a power play like this again. What they've done now is shown UEFA this is never going to work.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, this is never going to be accepted. So now we are now on top of this now. Whereas before, the clubs had all the power because they had.
Well, it never been tested. It never been tested. This was like a.
And you said it was coming in August, and that actually was good for the clubs because it gave them an easy out.
Yeah.
You could say it's rushed. That gives you a very easy look, we kind of like the idea, but we can't do it in August, so we're out.
Yeah.
If they said, look, we'll give it a year, we're going to try and work with UEFA, we're going to do all this stuff, we've got this broadcaster, but we're going to work hard and make sure it works, then it would have been much more difficult.
Well,
but they showed themselves.
The thing is, it's very difficult to organise a tournament like that when big money's involved. Because JP Morgan would have been sitting there, because I know what I'd have been sitting there if I was spending the money. You need to get this competition up and running as soon as possible. Because I want to get paid back as soon as possible.
But I mean, the simple fact that they wanted 15 and only have 12, even that is just stupid.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, how
we haven't even filled out the quota of teams that we want to start with.
Yeah.
Let alone the other 5 you need to get in. That's madness.
Yeah,
to release a statement before you've got everyone on board.
They've definitely lost their seat, and it's great for football because it shows obviously that there is still some control in the fan groups. But I do think this isn't the end of these guys trying to milk and make the most out of their investment.
No, 100%.
And there needs to be changes.
What the other thing I'd say is, football shouldn't lose the momentum of this. Don't now, because we killed the Super League, let UEFA off the hook. Don't let FIFA off the hook.
Yeah.
These 100%. Organisations are still massively corrupt. They're still killing the game. Let's get after everything that's wrong with football and not just stop here.
These clubs, they're not leaving because they're just for money. I agree with them in that UEFA and FIFA and even to our own FA have got awful issues, like lots and lots of problems. They're just obvious, and rightfully so. They're looking at it going, I don't really think they're being addressed. You take a massive chunk of our pie every year. That's the way they see it. It's their pie every year. And you're not supporting us. You're not doing this. You're not listening to us. You're not giving us. So I can get some of the other reasons why they probably.
Particularly the top 6 in the Premier League, because they probably generate half the revenue and see a 20. That's how it works.
Yeah.
The TV money is distributed equally across the league, which for me is right, and it's the voting as well. Yeah. That's what. So you look at Project Big Picture or whatever, Project Restart, whatever it's called. That's stupid.
Yeah.
When they wanted 8 teams to have all the voting power, again, it's the same thing. They're just saying, look, we do all the we feel like we do most of the work and get nothing for it, really.
Yeah.
Well, and this is the thing with the billionaire owners coming in, because they've basically got to a point where they own these clubs. These clubs are franchises now. Let's make no mistake about when you look at the scope of what
franchises for years.
Yeah, what Man United are globally, what Chelsea are, Liverpool especially. These
Arsenal.
I mean, these teams go somewhere and they will anywhere in the world. That's why they do all these pre-season tours in Asia, in the USA or whatever, and people will go watch them. And I feel like the owners of this has gone, you know what? There's too many rules here that are stopping us making the money that we would like to, that we know that we could potentially make. Why don't we, instead of just playing on this little monopoly board, why don't we just cut the middleman out and go make our own fucking game?
And flip the table behind us.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're losing a monopoly. Flip the table, and we won.
I wouldn't even go. I don't think they wanted to damage the league. I just don't think they gave a shit about it.
Yeah, but that's tantamount to the same thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah, like that's you can't really have one without the other in that sense. If you're going to do and it boils down to the fact that they don't care. Not only do they not care about if they don't care about their own fans, they certainly don't care about other fucking clubs, do they?
Exactly.
So yeah, and of course, again, one of the ones that really got me was Perez's use of the term legacy fans. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? I'm like, because. Like let's be real again. Outside of again these global franchises, like again your Man Uniteds and whatever, the vast majority of a club's fan base are locals or people that have been brought up in the area. If they've not been brought up in the area, they've got family from there. They've got historical ties to that club, right? For the vast majority of fans, and it's kind of. Yeah, with like say Man United and Liverpool and stuff, obviously with this big global appeal. Again, the owners are looking at it, they're thinking to themselves, you know what? I don't want John down the road to turn up at Anfield every week. At best, he'll buy a season ticket, but then after that, at best, he might get the club shirt once every few years or so, at an absolute push. What they want is they want someone, they want to take, they wanted to do this European Super League, and then after a year or two, go, right, okay, so now we're going to have Man United at home. Well, I say at home to Real Madrid in Beijing, and then we're going to have, Liverpool v Milan. Yeah, we're going to have Liverpool v Milan in New York, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, and we're going to.
And I mean, again, this is an American thing because the NFL comes to Britain every year
to Wembley.
It's a franchise. The game is a franchise.
It's growth.
It's growth.
What do you do as a business? You look to acquire your stake and you look to grow. This is growth. That's all it is to them. And this is what I mean by I think the great thing about this whole debacle is that it has shown not only that the fans, but that this shit's taken seriously by our government, by our MPs, and it's taken
by our royalty.
Our royalty. Yeah. And I think now is the time that we need to say, if we think that these clubs are part of our history and our heritage, which I think everyone on this call would agree, and I don't think there's many football fans that wouldn't say part of the reason they love their club is their history or their heritage. If we think that's the case, we need to start putting in procedures, just like you've got when you put a fucking green plaque outside a building, you can't touch it. We need to start doing these to our institutions because there isn't anything stopping, apart from financial suicide and the fact that most of the fans will probably burn in a break wall. There is nothing stopping Arsenal moving to New York.
No.
Apart from finances.
No. Like Stan Kroenke, he owns. I think it was the Tampa Bay Football Club. He moved them He moved them 1,000 miles to Los Angeles. Like they do not care if they think that it will make them more money. They will do it. Fuck the fans. That's what they will do.
That's why American football, American sports is so interesting because it is way more of a business than it is here. But so I think that's what we need to do. I think we can't stop here. We need to start taking control of the way our football.
I know Gary Neville's banged on about an independent regulator. Football definitely needs an independent regulator with people from the game, not linked to any clubs. This is how football's going to work. I mean, ticket prices need to come down.
Yeah,
the game needs to be brought back to fans. It's crazy.
You would argue that is what the Football Association should be doing.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
Their money's intrinsically linked to the Premier League. The Premier League is intrinsically linked to the Big Six, so they can't.
It needs to come from the government. It needs to be a regulator. Just like the Financial Conduct Authority and every other big regulator out there in the UK.
But this is the thing, and until something like that will happen, they will try this again, and they will not make the same mistakes they made this time around. They will learn from them. And they will go right. We need because they will be in a position where they will give the clubs this money up front. If Spurs has got £300 million up front, whatever, same with United, Chelsea, they're not pulling away from that unless the players at that point then go, fuck yourselves, we're not playing. But as you said, if they've then been given that money already, they can then already begin going, well, actually, for an extra 100k, will you stay? And then how many players would agree to that then? And as I said, without this regulator or anything to stop this from happening again, they will just, Perez is still saying it's not dead. They will sit back, bide their time, come up with a new plan, a new strategy that has less mistakes.
Yeah,
exactly.
And this is what I'm saying before. This idea came about in the 90s.
Yeah.
This is not a new idea. This is just an idea that's been recycled. They thought they'd found a way to make it work. So they're going to keep trying to find a way to make it work until they stick it.
Let me just ask you a question. It'd be interesting on your opinion. Would you be happy? Would you? And I know it's not this black and white, but would you accept that perhaps English football would become less competitive, less lucrative, if we brought in some controls over the way that clubs were run? Because arguably, these big owners would go, well, if I can't fucking do what I want with you, why do I want to be part of this investment? So do you think, as a whole, you would say, I don't mind that English football is a little bit less competitive, but overall, it's better for the heritage, it's better for the history. It's still good football.
I was going to say, the German league is good. Still good stuff. There's still good players there. Still good standards.
Yeah, and I would say it doesn't necessarily mean that it becomes less competitive. If
anything, it might make it more competitive.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If anything, because then that maybe not immediately, but then over time, that that gap in wealth would shrink. You would hope. So,
and the other thing is, if you take away those kind of big spending power, got to invest more in an academy. You can't just go and drop 70 million on the kid from Lyon or whatever. You're going to have to be operated better. Yeah, and you have to churn through some academy players, which ultimately could help the England national team if we're being really selfish about this whole thing.
Yes.
Better controls means better opportunities for homegrown talent, which again can only be a good thing.
I think the best model that's out there is probably the German model of fan ownership. But I appreciate that these are now big beasts, and I think the only way you could do something like that is nationalise.
I mean, bear in mind, Man United are on the stock exchange.
Yeah, you'd literally just have to nationalise them. So I appreciate it's a very tricky thing to do. I would like to end up with a German model, but I just don't think it works. So,
I mean, what I wouldn't mind if it was like every club had to have at least 10% stake. All fans had to have at least. And I know it doesn't mean anything, but it does. It gives you something.
It gives you a voice. It gives you a voice, because I think in this day and age, especially in football, it's like I feel like football fans have never felt more. Even prior to this, football fans have never felt more disconnected from their clubs than they are today.
I mean, I was going to say, because at Ipswich, because we were in administration in the noughties, that our fans still own 12.5% of the club to this, even after the takeover that's just happened. And it's always, so they still go to the board meetings. Yeah. They get involved in every decision. So every decision that the board is making, the fans know, because the fans are there. Yeah. You can't hide it. You can't make a deal like Daniel Levy, John Glazer have done behind closed doors without anyone knowing, because you are accountable to the board.
Yeah, and there's a seat there that is the fans, essentially. Yeah.
So it doesn't matter that they can't have a voting right. That this would have never got as far as it did, because it would have come out a year ago, and everyone would have said this is garbage, and we're not doing it.
No, I agree. Maybe that's a good shout. I just hope this doesn't die, because if not, they will keep pushing until. Because the problem is they'll just keep getting better at understanding how to circumnavigate.
I suppose with that in mind, what do you do with them now? How do you stop them?
I don't think you should punish them.
I think there's got to be something.
Yeah, they didn't go through. I think it's very difficult.
No, but they did sign. They did sign it. This is the thing. It's not like I know they've backed out before it's began, but they did sign it. It's not like they were just having meetings, just discussing. They did sign, and they knew what they were signing up for as well. Even if
it's not like Project Big Picture. Project Big Picture was shit, but it didn't get to the stage of someone signing a contract. Or what Perez or what the Juventus guy said, they've signed a contract. if they've signed contracts and they've pulled out of the ECA, this was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
So you've got to punish that. It's like you punish people for attempted murder just because they didn't fit. Like, I don't say it's a true example, but just because they didn't do it, doesn't mean you
it's the same. If you break into someone's house and then go, actually, I'm not going to steal anything. You've still broken in. Like,
that's possibly a better example.
But that's it. Like. You know, if you then come downstairs in your pajamas and see some cunt standing there, and they goes, "Oh look, sorry mate, I was gonna steal, but I've had a change of heart." Like, I'll see myself out. Like, you're not gonna go, "All right then, mate."
Can you unlock the door?
Do you want some breakfast while you're here? Like, come on.
Like, no, you're not gonna do that. You've still, and they're broken rule. Like, there's a specific rule in the Premier League L9 that says that these clubs cannot agree to do any. So again, as I said, like, just talking or whatever, it's one thing, but they've done. And here's the thing as well, right? Because it's been a big thing that's been going around. People have been saying that they shouldn't punish the fans or the staff. Well, the fans and the staff are the ones that get punished every other time clubs have been deducted points, which more often than not is just through mismanagement of funds on behalf of the club.
This is what I think. So, tell that to Bolton, tell that to Sheffield Wednesday, tell that to Bury, tell that to this myriad of clubs which had shit owners that they couldn't get rid of.
Yeah.
And the fans kept getting punished. 12-point deductions every season for Blackpool until they got the owner out.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot tell me that the clubs aren't punished for the actions of their owner, because they always have been.
Yeah.
And just because now it's your team and it's a big team, we shouldn't be doing it. No, garbage. No. You deserve the same sanction as everybody else. No, if not worse.
I would agree, because
I think it'll be massive money. I can't.
I don't think they will. They will bottle it. They will bottle it 100%. I'm not expecting them, but for me, that's just another. That for me is just another example of just how. Of everything that is currently wrong with the system in football, because the Premier League won't do that, and UEFA won't ban them from their competitions because it's not within their own interest to do that. Even if it was just some, like the Premier League, just something all these 6 clubs, they start next season on -12 or 15 points, which all of them would then make that to at least not be relegated. And
mate, let's hear about Arsenal. The rest of them will be all right.
Yeah, but realistically,
I think they've only got about 15 points.
I could understand. I say I could understand. Fucking give me that Premier League title, bitch. But no, but like I could understand if they didn't do anything points wise this season, and just and then if they said start of next season, these 6 clubs, you're starting on -12, -15. I can go, all right.
Well, it's also the fact you've got to, if you're going to hit him with a point deduction, do it where it hurts. City would probably still win the league if he docked them 12 points.
Yeah.
He's not United 12 points behind them. So the likelihood is City would still win the league.
No,
so it doesn't affect them.
Yeah.
So hit them next season and give them because it's going to hurt more because you start on -12.
Yeah, exactly.
You've not already got your buffer and you're not already miles in front.
No, exactly. So, I would say that personally, and because here's the thing with a fine as well, right? And I'm 99.9%. If it's anything more than a fine, I will personally be amazed. But I am 100% sure it's fine. But here's the thing with fines: we've seen this happen loads of time before, when like racism fines and player not controlling the players' fines. Obviously, this fine will be more than that. But to billionaires, let's say they fine these clubs even 10 million, which I think would be an absolute push. I don't think they're going to fine them anywhere near that, right?
I would be more surprised if it was more than $1 million.
Yeah, to Stan Kroenke, the Glazers, John Henry, that's a drop in the bucket. That's not.
Yeah, I was talking about Liverpool. They spent $2 million on Ben Davies from fucking Preston. Like, what's £1 million? That's a garbage centre half from the Championship.
Yeah,
come on, that's nothing.
It's madness.
But this idea of don't deduct them points because it's the fans that are going to suffer. Well, the fans are the ones that fucking suffer.
Yeah,
whenever teams have been deducted points before.
Well, and let's be honest, the fans were the one that were going to suffer the most from this anyway.
Yeah,
if this had happened. So. If we're giving you a bit of pain here to stop you potentially losing your club in the future.
And here's the thing as well. So like without this deterrent as well of if they try to do this again and it falls through, and they don't get punished for it this time, then they're not going to be afraid to do it again next time, because they're going to know, or even if it does go tits up like it did last time, I'm going to get away with it scot-free. So you have to implement some kind of points deduction in there for me. As you said, not this season, because I agree with you. You know, like 15 points to City this year, no, it's not enough. They would probably still go on and win the league. And hell, they'd probably still go on and win the league next year, but at least they would be starting.
15 points to Arsenal probably gets them close to relegation.
Yeah, they would be. They'd still be all right.
But
I think they'd still be all right.
But Man United and City, you would imagine, would still qualify for the Champions League this year. Yeah. So
yeah, that's what I mean.
Would West Ham go top though?
No, Leicester would be. Yeah, Leicester.
It's all right. I can take them winning the league again.
No, but I mean, if football's reaction to this is half-hearted,
it will happen again.
It will be. Yeah, it will be half-hearted.
It's that thing. If you aim for the king, you better not miss. Like football needs to shoot this in the head rather than like give it a shot in the foot, because otherwise it will heal and they'll try again.
How much did the 14? How much did the 14? How much power did the 14 even have? Is it just fines? Is it just fines?
They can totally do fines. They can do points deductions.
But what I thought that was 75%, or 75% like expulsion from the league.
I think there's certain.
Yeah, like I'm sure it's tier. Yeah, you're not the Premier League rule back.
Yeah, but there is certain things where there's 75%.
But yeah, if we take a half measure on this, it will happen again, and not.
I think it will happen again regardless.
Yeah, I mean, obviously
this won't deter. Exactly. Fuck off.
But yeah,
there's more money to be made over
it certainly pushes it. Like they won't try again for 20 years.
They'll just be smart about it. This will happen again if we don't bring in serious change. Yeah. This will happen again, and they'll fucking get away with it.
Yeah,
correct. But even so, I don't think it'll happen for 20. They can't try again for 20 years, probably.
Yeah, they need to seriously rebuild this. Yeah.
And Perez needs to have died, because let's be honest, he's an asshole.
Hey man. Yeah. Maybe we should just murder him. Maybe that should be the punishment. Guillotine.
I mean, if you guillotine John Glazer, Florentino Perez,
the world's a better place. It's a shame they're not in France. Their French love a riot and a guillotine. But yeah.
Well, it's pretty mad, actually. You know, like, could you actually imagine the reaction if there were French teams involved in this? Like, yeah, that would have seriously.
They'd have gone strike. That'd have been a strike before you know it.
Yeah.
They love a strike, the French.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going to be interesting now is whether like the likes of Henry and Glazer can even carry on as the owners of their clubs.
Exactly. Well, this is the thing as well, because
this is irreparable.
They haven't said fuck all, have they?
Huh?
They haven't said it.
John Henry.
John Henry came out of the video.
John Henry has released an apology video. It's honestly, it smacks of like fucking, honestly, a bit like Logan Paul after the dead body kind of. This is like the footballing equivalent of that.
It's like a petulant teenager who's been caught doing something. Like, say you're sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've
let the fans down. Like fuck off, you cunt. And the thing is, as well, with that, is that up until this point, you have to say, like I feel like the majority of Liverpool fans would have been very, very happy with John Henry, because they've won the Champions League and the Premier League under his tenure. He wasn't gung ho with Klopp, say, in the first couple of years when they weren't quite making it to that level. He was patient. They gave him time. They let him. They did what Liverpool used to do. Let a manager build the team up and get there, and they've reaped the rewards in terms of the Champions League and the Premier League. Obviously, this year's an off year. You expect them to be back stronger next year with a few recruitments and that. And then for like his reputation, that is dead now. They could win the Premier League for the next 3 years in a row, and they will still want that guy gone now. They will still want John Henry out of that club. He's ruined it.
It's because it's a club that's so strong about its heritage as well.
Yeah.
I think City fans were really upset about this, but I'm not fucking surprised about City. It's new money club. Like I don't. What do they owe to the Premier League?
What surprised me a bit about City is they've invested so much into Manchester.
Yeah,
and I don't think they ever wanted to rebuilding Moss side.
No, I agree.
The training pictures they put in there, all the work they've done around Manchester,
the academy.
They've gone long term on this.
Yeah,
and for them to almost throw away for a franchise seemed a bit weird. To me, they were the oddest case of the teams in. The rest of them, I could see why they'd have gone.
Well, Arsenal and Tottenham wanted money.
Arsenal and Tottenham weren't getting there, so they needed to get some way in.
Yeah.
United and Liverpool had American ownership, so they just wanted that close shop.
Yeah.
Chelsea's probably the other slightly weird one, but that's Bruce Buck, who's behind Abramovich. So he's the driver there. City, I just don't see what they stood to benefit from this. I don't, and as I say, like, and I know they were the first ones to jump ship, and I don't want to give them a free pass. They obviously don't deserve a free pass. They got on the bus and they were driving this thing forward. But they were the ones that surprised me in terms of even being involved. I don't get it.
No, I agree. I agree. I think you summed it up perfectly there. Like what they've done for the city of Manchester in general, the stadium complex they've built, it's all centered around Manchester. You know, like, and you know, we talked about the possibility of these fixtures being played in Saudi Arabia, in Dubai, in New York, in Los Angeles, wherever. You know, for them to, when you think, as you said, of what the roots they've put into Manchester since taking over 13 years ago, for them to kind of just throw that away when, let's be real, they're already the richest players in the game anyway, and it's only really going to benefit Real Madrid and Barcelona. I mean, obviously, you know, all the others are going to get the money, but in terms of the clubs that desperately needed it, Real Madrid and Barcelona they're the reason why they're still there. Man City didn't need this extra 300 million per year. They just didn't. And if anything, it would just be giving their competitors an extra 300 million a year to compete with them. They stood to lose the most from this. So
they've gone all in on the Champions League as well for the past few years. Like that's been that whole race on
that's the one thing they want to complete the set. Then once they win that Champions League once, they've completed football effectively. It's over. The task that they've started 13 years ago would be finished once they win the Champions League.
You can follow the Real Madrid way and just get loads of debt. And
that's just the thing that surprised me about Real Madrid. This is a club that's been built on its Champions League success and European Cup successes. They love the 13 Champions League European Cup titles. That's what the foundation of Madrid is built on European Cups.
It is. That is the difference maker between Real Madrid and all the other clubs in the world, really. Because when you think that the second next is AC Milan on 7, you got Real Madrid on 13. It's that heritage and everything else. It's just
Galacticos for a reason.
Yeah.
But I think you'll get away with it at Real Madrid. The fan base, there's a fan base there, but it's not as vocal.
There must be an election in Madrid soon, and Perez is going to have to stand in it.
Yeah, this was his project.
Yeah,
stubborn man. He's still going to be there, guys. The Super League's going ahead. We've got Aston Villa, Stoke.
I said it is. You liken it to guys like I got a table of 12 for a birthday party, and like the waiter keeps coming over, like, "Are your friends coming?" It's like, no, they're definitely coming. It's like an hour later. They're definitely coming, mate. Don't worry, they'll be here. They'll be here.
And the thing that amazed me
outside just crying into his soup.
Here's the thing that really got me as well, actually, because the clubs themselves and the ones that made the statement, they actually themselves never referred to it as the European Super League. It was just the Super League. So, and I'm thinking with these extra spots, because again, we all know it's not really about footballing, being good at football, because Spurs and Arsenal would not be anywhere near it realistically. Let's be real. And even Man United, they've not reached the final of the Champions League in 10 years. Man United, they've missed out on basically the Champions League every other season, pretty much since Ferguson left. Man City have never won the European Cup. Liverpool have literally just won their first title in 30 years, and Chelsea
Spurs have won the league title in 60 years. To put that into context, Ipswich have won the league title more recently than Tottenham, and we won it in 1962.
Yeah,
like that's madness.
It is that, but you look at this, right, and as I said, it was the clubs and the organisation itself only ever referred to it as the Super League, and I'm thinking again, talk about not being planned properly. I think, especially with the idea of taking it global in the future, I am amazed they didn't try and get, especially when they got Man City on board. Why not then try and get New York City on board, LA Galaxy on board, Inter Miami, David Beckham's new club.
Well, no, I mean, if you look at that, surely you're going to look at like Boca Juniors and say Santos.
Potentially, but you could argue there's maybe more money in those American clubs.
If you want to get creative, if you want to get creative with it and go where money is, China. I know their league is pretty much folded. I know their league is pretty much folded now, but
But that's partly why you try and get him in, surely.
Yeah,
give him 300 million a year, they'd be up for that.
Yeah,
no, exactly. And then you've got obviously the Chinese are already would be they're much more invested because there would be Chinese clubs playing against these European giants in competitive games.
It's basically like those friendly tours that they do, but competitive.
Yeah. So you would think...
Can you do it on a cold, rainy night in Shanghai? I don't think it's ever really that cold in Shanghai.
Hot rainy nights in Shanghai. A warm, fucking Shanghai night.
But no, honestly though, I do think that they were probably thinking down the line because there's a reason why they didn't put the European tag on it. We've, the fans and the media have put the European tag on it. But yeah.
But I mean, the interesting thing is FIFA are trying to expand the Club World Cup, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
To make it a massive thing. That's sort of what they want to do. That's the only reason they're opposed to this, by the way, is because ESL, that would have blocked them doing the new Club World Cup.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the thing that you've got to think as well is, so obviously, had this gone ahead, there was obviously it came out when Project Big Picture was a thing, like 6 months or so ago, and FIFA came out and UEFA came out, and they both said anyone that competes in a Super League will be banned from competing in UEFA or FIFA competition. So, i.e., you can't play in the Euros or you can't play in the World Cup. But this Super League, the people behind it would have gone, well, we'll just make our own World Cup. We'll just make our own equivalent of the Euros and the equivalent of the Super, the World, the Copa America or whatever it's called. That's what they would have done. Like, so, and as I said, if the money's there, I really do think the only way, this has fallen down through two aspects. It's fallen down through the players not wanting to do it, and through just I feel like the lack of planning behind the movement. If they got the planning right, and they said to the players immediately, if you stay and play, you'll each get, I don't know, like an extra 25 to 50% on your contract that you're currently on. Players are then going to start sending this, especially ones that haven't got ties to European clubs. They're going to be sitting there going, well, like if you've got Oscar going to China in his mid-20s and Marko Arnautovic and all these players, these players are going to sit there and go, well, all right, then I'll just stick it out here and I'll play
me. And the other thing to think about is if you're right, if they just put a bit more time into planning, if they got it didn't even have to be lots of. If they got, for example, BT to sign up to it in principle and say, yeah, we would be interested in hosting this sort of thing.
But we don't know when it's going to come.
We don't know it's going to be, but we'd be interested in it. Automatically, Sky go, well, fuck, BT's over there.
And then Amazon.
They've already got the Champions League. And then Amazon go, hold on, so BT's doing it. We want a slice of that pie. You automatically create an environment where these companies want to compete against each other, and it makes it even that much more attractive to go into something like this.
And that's what I was saying before, the lack of planning gave the clubs an easy out for this too.
Yeah, it's just a fucking mess.
Because if they said in 2 years, everyone signed up for this to start in 2 years, and that's a commitment we've made, and we're going to work with UEFA to that target, but all the players, and we've signed up all the clubs, all the players know this is going to happen in 2 years, it would have happened. The fact that God, this is starting in August and we've told nobody, I was like, well, that seems a little bit quick to me.
Yeah, I was like, I know. If they came to these clubs with cash up front and went, this is already going on Prime, or this is already going on Netflix or Disney or whatever, right? We're cutting out the middlemen of Sky, but you're going to get all of this. Here's your 350 million right now. So you can sack Mourinho if you want Daniel Levy. You can do whatever, or you can, you want Haaland.
Still be a tight
you want Haaland. You want Haaland, Man City. There you go. But no, it's just it felt. It's so rushed, and for it to be, we're going to be starting in August. You're like, well, Hank, you've not even got the TV rights sorted. You've not even got the cash in hand. How are you going to get this?
All the clubs
I know.
We've got 12.
Yeah, how are you going to get this off the ground? So it's just amazing. But honestly, man, and it's good that we can kind of sit here and mock it now. But when all these clubs were pulling out of the ECA,
I was seriously stressed.
Honestly, I was sat there. I was like, this is it. I was like, this is happening. I was like, these clubs they're pulled out of the ECA. I was like, this is happening.
I kind of went through the stages of grief and
same.
I started off just I was like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And then it went on. I was like, no, I think this is going to happen now.
I got through to accept it.
I went through a stage.
I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I just always felt like it wasn't. I don't think leaving the ECA is as big a thing as people necessarily thought it was. I don't think it takes that much to sign up to it and pull out of it. It's kind of a meaningless show.
In the sense that you are.
It's about as minimal a commitment as they could have done.
I mean,
that's what I mean.
Because the thing that got me was because that they had already signed the agreement, and then they started then pulling out. So I'm like, they've not only signed it, but they're then taking active steps to ensure that it happens. So that was why I was like, shit. That this isn't just talk anymore. They're actually doing things.
A contract that early on means bullshit. No, you don't think these
so
millionaire organisations run by very, very wealthy, intelligent people would have signed a contract that they know they can't get out of. They knew they could get out of it at any time.
Yeah.
You would sign up for something you can't get out of.
Yeah, there's been all kinds of out clauses in that. I don't know. It's just maybe it would be a false hope, but I never saw it. The fans were never going to allow it, and I know the fans weren't important, but they are important eventually. They needed TV fans. They needed someone to buy into this.
I think you just hit the nail on the head. They needed people to buy into it, and if you've got TV companies bought into it, because they don't, as much as we all think, they need fans. Yes, they need fans, but it doesn't matter where those fans are. It doesn't matter if they're from Chelsea. It matters, do people support us and give us money? Yeah. I don't care whether that fan is from Chelsea and lived in London the whole life, or if they are from Beijing or Dubai or anywhere else in the world, or America or Canada. They don't care.
As Perez said, legacy fans. He's like, we don't need them. What they want tourists. They don't want fans. They want tourists. They want people that would treat football like it's a day out at Harry Potter Studios. It's going to turn up, and going to go, they've spent however much, like £100 each on a ticket, blah, blah, blah. And then they're going to go into the club shop and they're going to each spend, the best part of £100 or more on merchandise. And then they're going to sit in the stadium, have their popcorn and go. And then the very next week, it'll be a different family or a different group of friends that replaces them.
Let's be honest. This is why all the big clubs are striving for bigger stadiums. Their stadiums house their regulars. All of them, pretty much.
They don't want regulars.
That's what I mean. So they want bigger stadiums so they can get more fans in who are not regulars. Because they don't really need... They know who the regulars
they don't want fans. They want tourists. They want consumers. They want casuals. They don't want someone that's going to... That if they lose that game, they're going to go home and be like, that's ruined my fucking weekend. They want someone that's going to... If they see the team lose, they're going to go, oh, well, that was a bit naff, but I had a really good day out.
That's great.
The kind of people are buying half and half scarves.
Yeah, that's what they want. No, that is what they want. They want the half and half scarf merchants. That's what they want. The people that will just dip in and out because they know that there's enough people in the world for that to be viable. They know they don't need loyalty. They know that they just need someone to fill that
loyalty to a profit.
Yeah.
If you can lose, it doesn't matter if you lose. Let's say, I don't know. So let's say there's 10 million Chelsea fans. I don't know, I'm picking on Chelsea, but it could be any club. There's 10 million Chelsea fans in the UK. Or there's, I don't know, say there's 500,000 that go to games throughout the course of a season. You don't need that. You want 40, 60, 150 million fans that are on TV, that are watching, that will fly out and will do all that bullshit. It's a business.
Yeah.
And it's about maximizing your revenue. And I think that this is where it needs to come to some sort of... If we want to take these institutions as historical and important, then we need to start doing something.
This is where the fit and proper persons test needs complete reworking. We need ownership. When they sign up to buying a football team, there needs to be clauses in there. We will not mess with the structure of the league unless it's agreed by all other members of the league, or whatever the wording needs to be, whatever the legal jargon needs to be. If you're going to buy a club in England, you sign up to this clause. We are not going to mess with this.
I would go further. I would make it a criminal offence. So if you do dodgy shit in banks, you go to prison. You don't just get a fine. Sometimes you get a fine. You go to prison. You go to jail. It needs to be the same level of scrutiny if you break these laws.
Yeah.
Breaking financial conduct is not a light thing to do. So it shouldn't be a light thing to do to fuck with our heritage.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
I think that's a good note on which to end on.
Yeah, no, I feel like we've kind of covered that.
Anarchy!
Yeah. Well, for the minute anyway, the Super League isn't happening, which is good. So fuck you, Perez. Fuck you, the Glazers. Fuck everyone involved in this, basically. Football is for the fans. That's what the shirt says. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we will see you on the next episode. All right, let's stop recording.